think you're straddling the corner. Hey, John, how are you?
Nice to see you all.
Lovely. Happy New Year to you and your
Same to
family.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, create some space.
Five minutes late, yeah.
Thanks for what I do. Yeah.
Eric will be about 5 minutes late. But that's still
Yeah, new cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need a chart.
Elise, is the glare bad from this? Want us to close the shade? In the video? In the video? It shouldn't be if the lights are on.
I'm going to go ahead and get started with the announcements.
Hi, how are you?
I'm going to go ahead and get started with the announcements and then we can start. Eric, last time. For those watching tonight's meeting virtually, this meeting is available to live stream by the Park District website. All information about Park District meetings can be found at winpark.org under the Park District Info tab by selecting board meetings and videos. Public comment is accepted in person. A link to the video and audio will be posted immediately following this evening's meeting. To improve the sound while listening to the meeting, please turn up the volume on your computer and turn up the volume on the website. The meeting packet for tonight's meeting is located on the website. For those attending tonight's meeting, the emergency exits from the room are the door behind you or through the foyer. To improve the sound quality, there is a boom microphone directed towards the commissioners. The microphone will pick up any additional audience conversation. If it's difficult to hear, please consider moving forward to the front row. This is a business meeting. The board asks for your cooperation to maintain the quorum. There's no clapping or booing. Please be considerate and refrain from interrupting board members and other speakers. We're a community coming together to discuss difficult issues in a civil and respectful fashion. 6 o'clock. I would like to call to order the January 16th, 2025 regular board meeting of the Winnetka Park District. Denise, that's a roll call.
Commissioner James?
Here.
Commissioner Weston will arrive in a few minutes. Commissioner Rapp? Here. Commissioner Root? Here. Commissioner Tyson?
Here.
Commissioner Kodo?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Excellent. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Shannon, do you want to start us off with public announcements?
Of course. So winter recreation programs are now underway, and you still have time to view the brochure and find a class such as basketball, gymnastics, or adult and top tumbling, just to name a few, to keep you active during these colder months. Visit the Park District website for more information. Also, the Indian Hill Outdoor Ice Rink is now open for the season. Skating is free, but you have to bring your own skates. The Indian Hill Warming Hut is open and staffed Monday through Friday from 5 to 8 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m., weather permitting. For more information, also visit our website. Additional important dates to note include resident registration for spring programs and summer camp opens on January 27th at 8:30 a.m. with non-resident registration beginning on January 29th.
Perfect. Are there any requests for changes or additions to the agenda? Yes.
Are you recognizing me?
Yes,
Okay.
Cynthia, and then Kelly, in the order your hands went.
I would like to make a motion to take from the table item 6.4, which is interim plan to open Elder Beach for the 2025 season, and place it immediately after item 6.2.
Okay, I think that's already on the agenda, so that's fine. Yeah,
I think formally we need to make a motion to move it
To
from the
move it.
table since we tabled it last time.
okay.
Do I need to second that?
So are you making the motion?
I'm making the motion.
Excellent. Second?
I'm gonna second it.
Okay. Do we have any discussion?
You can't have discussion on
Okay.
the procedural motion.
Okay, fine. That's a roll call, Denise?
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Commissioner Wesson,
Yes.
and Commissioner Rapp,
Yes.
Commissioner Root,
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson,
Yes.
Commissioner Coto,
Yes.
that motion passes.
Excellent. Yes.
And then I have a proposal. See, we have in our audience tonight so many visitors that are part of the presentation of new business. My proposal, and seeing that the board will be reviewing a proposed settlement agreement on Shresheim versus the Winnetka Park District, my proposal is that we take item 6, unfinished business, with the exception of 6.1, which is the Crow Island Woods restoration update, and place it after the executive session. This will give the board an opportunity to fully understand all issues that may be pending with respect to various matters affecting Elder and Centennial that would be appropriate for executive session.
So you're
I'm confused.
moving what to after
I didn't
executive
follow.
session?
Let me,
All of unfinished business?
with the exception of the Crow Island Woods update, where it does not appear that that is in any way subject to a legal issue at this point, if I read the executive director's memo. You got a
Okay.
meeting and you're waiting on a response.
Can you use numbers? So
Yeah.
you're saying 6.2, 6.3, 6.4, all to move after closed?
Well, as we're going to be discussing a settlement agreement, and I presume
That
will be.
That one, I believe we should definitely move to
6.3
after
or
closed. 6.3,
And,
I think we should.
and 6 point, as you, Commissioner James, have introduced drawings from October 5th of 2023, I presume we're going to be talking about a number of things that could be discussed during executive session with respect to the property exchange agreement and others. I would propose that this fall after the executive session, so the board is fully informed.
So your motion, to clarify, is 6.2, 6.3, and 6.5, all after executive session?
6.4 also, and also in deference to our visitors. We have a number of visitors tonight with proposals.
Okay, here, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Is there any discussion of moving those items? Go ahead.
I'm happy to move 6.3, the settlement discussion, till after close, so we can get an update from council. And if it's your preference to discuss the interim plan after close, happy to move that. I think the update to Elder and Centennial, my additions are just housekeeping. There's nothing significant, nothing terribly significant to those plans.
Well,
Just recognizing their existence, that's all.
I was curious as they were added today, and so I was trying to understand why we're going back and looking at plans that were ultimately
It'll be
introduced
very
in
brief.
October
It'll be very brief.
5th of 2023.
President Cota, point
Yes.
of order. I'd like to get us back on topic and not discussing the actual
Perfect.
items.
Okay, so we have a motion to move 6.3, 6.4, and
And 6.2.
6.2 to after closed. We have a second. Can you execute a roll call vote, Denise?
Sure. Commissioner Wesson,
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp,
Yes.
Commissioner Root,
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson,
Yes.
Commissioner James,
No,
Commissioner Coto,
No.
that motion passes.
So we're moving 6.3, 6.4, and 6.2.
6.2, 6.3, 6.4, and 6.5 until after closed session.
And 6.5?
I believe that's
All after
the
closed.
motion, yes.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve the January 16th agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent, that motion passes. Public comment. This is your opportunity to address the board on any issue. When called upon, please come to the center position in front of the commissioners, stand at the podium, speak loudly or into the microphone, state your name for the record, and speak directly to the board. Based on the public comment policy described in the board policy manual and referenced in Public Access Counselor Opinion 2024 PAC 81900, guests may present public comment for no longer than 3 minutes after being recognized. If you prefer to share your comments in writing this evening, you may do so by leaving them with a member of the Park District staff. Kindly raise your hand if you'd like to make public comment. Please come forward.
Good evening, my name is Andrew Aarons. I'm a representative for the Orchard 2020 Revocable Trust, the owner of the property at 205 Sheridan Road. Here tonight to update the board on the status of challenges to my client's breakwater. As the board is likely aware, Mr. Shusham filed not only the litigation against the Park District regarding the exchange agreement, but also litigation challenging the breakwater permits issued by the IDNR. So pleased to announce that in response to arguments from Illinois Department of Natural Resources and my client, the court has dismissed Mr. Shrusham's litigation with prejudice on all counts. So what that means is he's unable to bring further claims against the breakwaters that were raised in the litigation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to make public comment? Please raise your hand. Okay. Ted, I think you're the only person with a hand raised, so please come forward. Mr. Winnicott.
This is very exciting because we have a lot of things to talk about now. So, hi, okay. The main comments I'm going to make in a second. First, it is true that the case was dropped against the IDNR and Mr. Ishbia. However, what wasn't made clear is it was a technical decision based solely on issues of standing, where they successfully argued that, you know, because the people of the state really aren't a party to the permit process, that they don't have standing to challenge it, which I think is a bunch of hogwash, because, you know, that is our lake, and I feel that the court's decision here was problematic, and I do hope that Mr. Shusham will appeal it, because I don't believe that it is appropriate. But the other issue I wanted to touch on briefly is I find this ice rink thing interesting. I am concerned, however, about two things. First, the idea that Park District properties need to be profit-making. We're not a private company. We are a public service, and that shouldn't be a primary concern. But more importantly, I'm concerned that this idea of the pool, which has been thrown in there, is a bait and switch tactic. It's in there, oh, we're gonna put in a pool, and then when this all comes together, it's just gonna be a bunch of hockey rinks and the pool's gonna disappear because, you know, it wasn't really ever intended to be a thing. My main comment today, and I'm gonna start now and I'm gonna keep talking, because I've noticed that while you keep talking about how this is supposed to be respectful, I find the comments here the most disrespectful interaction of any public body I have ever addressed. And surprise, surprise, I've addressed a number of them. You know, I think what I've noticed here is that this meeting is a meeting of the board. The presiding officer is the president. You're the one that reads the statement at the beginning. You're the one that talks about all this. And if you recall from your most recent interactions at the zoning board, when people got to the 3-minute mark, it wasn't some audience member, some staff member that's really here just as a visitor, essentially, yelling at them to stop talking. It was the presiding officer. And that's true at every other public body I've ever been to. If the presiding officer decides, well, your time is up, then they'll ask you to stop talking. It won't be some audience member that will start yelling over you saying 3 minutes is up, conclude your comments, 3 minutes is up, conclude your comments. It'll be the presiding officer. It's disrespectful and it's a flaw on your part to allow any person to interrupt. You say that we shouldn't interrupt, but you let staff interrupt speakers all the time. So if we want to make it more respectful, we need to get back to what the purpose of this meeting is. Because your policy also allows for people to get an additional 3 minutes if they ask and if you approve it. It doesn't just stop because of magical 3-minute mark and someone's yelling at them to shut up. And so I would ask that if you want me to stop talking, I see the red screen, I'm over my time, and I've made my point. My point is that if we want to be respectful, then we need to be respectful all the time. And that also includes having, some unimportant, for this purposes of this meeting, person start yelling and telling people that they're done. If you want me to stop, all you have to do is ask, because I'm gonna stand here and I'm gonna talk about this until I hear something from the presiding officer of this board.
Yeah.
And
I do think you've made your point. You've said yourself you've made your point. So respectfully, I would ask
Yeah,
you.
no worries.
to conclude.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other audience members who wish to speak? Please raise your hand if you do. Okay. Thanks very much. That will close public comment. Item 3 is our consent agenda. The December financials are not included in the consent agenda due to the date of this meeting being prior to month closeout. Those financials will be provided at the next regular meeting. That means that the December 31st closeout has not yet finished, so that's why we're not presenting them. Without objection, a request for removal of any specific item from the consent agenda for individual consideration. We will act on the following items with a single vote. 3.1, regular meeting minutes of December 19th, 2024. 3.2, closed session minutes, December 19th, 2024. 3.3, vouchers in the amount of $687,788.07. 3.4, banking services update resolutions. Does anyone wish to have any item removed from the consent agenda? Seeing no one making such motion, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Roll call, Denise?
Commissioner Rapp?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Koto?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Excellent. Public hearing, item number 4. This is the public hearing on the tentative fiscal year 2025 budget and appropriation ordinance. Jim Crocker, take it away.
Thank you, Commissioner Cotto. As the board will remember, on December 19th of 2024, we presented the 2025 budget for ratification. That followed several meetings worth of discussion and elucidation on the proposed 2025 budget. The budget was passed by a majority of the board, and this ordinance simply reflects that vote by the board, and this is just the legal document we will be filing with Cook County to reflect our anticipated spending plan for 2025. Are there any questions I can answer at this time?
Okay. May I have a motion to recess?
Oh.
Go ahead.
You're in a public hearing, so we should invite the public to.
Oh, pardon me, of course.
Oh, we open up
We
to-
didn't open
Yes.
the
Oh, I'm
public
sorry.
hearing yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what she was about to
Okay.
do.
That's next.
May I have a motion to recess the regular meeting session and open a public hearing regarding the proposed fiscal year 2025 budget and appropriation ordinance?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Any opposed? Okay. We are now in a public hearing regarding ordinance 2025-01, fiscal year 2025 annual budget and appropriation at 6:16. To review the 2025 budget process and discussion occurred at public meetings in October, November, and December of 2024. The proposed budget has been posted for 30 days on the Park District's website. No comments or questions regarding the budget have been received. The notice of this public hearing was posted in the Winnetka Talk on January 2nd and again on January 9th, exceeding the requirement of 7 days public posting. Is there any public comment regarding the 2025 budget? Please indicate by raising your hand.
I have a question. Are you guys done talking about it then?
This is your time to comment publicly.
But you see, it says here in your own rules, at blah, 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 public hearings, part of the hearing process, board may conduct, the purpose of hearings to provide residents with information, remarks made, public hearings are specific. They say to wait until after for a public hearing, the public is said to, those comments should be after the topic has been discussed.
So there's no discussion from the board
Oh,
because
okay.
we've
So then you're
considered
done.
them?
So you're done. You're
So
just
we're
gonna vote.
finished,
Okay,
yes.
good, good.
So
Just making
carry
sure.
on.
Just make sure.
Yes.
I appreciate you picking that up. I was gonna bring that up.
Yeah.
It wasn't. No, my only question about the budget, it relates to something that I'm confused by. There's a note in the agenda packet about a future PKI, key KPI, key performance indicator, whatever. It sounds like a payout. It sounds like some sort of thing that's going to be coming up. And if we're going to be paying, if the park district is going to be paying key employees or some employees for meeting certain metrics additionally, was that included in your consideration of what the budget's going to look like in the coming year?
Jim, or Shannon.
Performance.
Yes, it has been.
Oh, okay.
There you go. Thank you very much.
So,
Would anyone else like to comment on the budget? Okay.
Except for us, would we comment, like,
Well, we had discussion already. We had the opportunity for discussion.
okay.
So after the hearing is closed, then we'll have a debate on the
Okay.
ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
All right. May I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Okay. Thank you. That's Eric. Voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. We are now back in open session of the regular meeting at 6:19. Item 4.2, the fiscal year 2025 annual budget and appropriation ordinance 2025-001. May I have a motion to approve ordinance 2025-001 fiscal year 2025 annual budget and appropriation ordinance?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Okay, that's Eric. And discussion. Let's just go around the circle. Do you want to be first? Go ahead.
I'd like to pass and have an opportunity after I hear other comments.
Okay, Jeff, any comments?
We discussed this to the ground, so I'm good.
Okay. I have no comments?
No comment.
No comments.
Excellent. Okay, Cynthia.
I just had a question. For the OMA compensation summary, will that be posted to the website, or do people need to ask for it, and when will it be available?
So that will be available upon request, but we will have it available, I believe it's within 7 days.
Okay. I believe you also had a comment.
And then I just have a comment. We are budgeting $15.8 million for capital projects. We have had a number of visitors come and talk to us about please being concerned about fiscal responsibility. And I hope as the year progresses and as we look at our capital projects, that we consider that there may not be a need to spend $15.8 million, inclusive of a $3 million donation that we don't yet have. Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no other requests for discussion, this is a roll call vote.
Commissioner Root?
Yes?
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kodo?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Excellent. Presentations. Item number 5, multipurpose community center engagement requests. We have Costa, we have Brent Kozel, is it Kozel?
Yep.
Excellent. Doug Sharfstein and John Wilson from the Winnetka Warriors. Costa, would you like to start it off? And gentlemen, I don't know if you want to come up or if you want to lead the presentation.
Christina, thank you. As you mentioned here tonight, we have members of the Winnetka Warriors Board and previous board standing on behalf of their interest to support a multi-use recreational facility, a community center, if you will, for the Winnetka Park District.
We've had the opportunity to engage with them in the past now. We worked together to come up with a feasibility study, a high-level feasibility study, I'll say, to review the possibilities and the costs associated with those possibilities, once again, at a high-level square footage programmable space identified for that in a three-tiered system, a low, medium, and high, if you will. It's the request upon the gentleman in front of you today, along with the Winnetka Warriors, to further that request, and we'll let them present their information this evening, along with their presentation on their findings and what they'd like to ask the park board for additional next steps. Brent, thank you.
Yes. Just to introduce ourselves, I'm Brent Kozel, current Vice President of the board. Been a resident for over 7 years, been involved with the hockey program for 5, been on the board in my 3rd year. I've met these 2 guys. I've known Doug for a long time, met John through the work of the board, and introduce themselves.
Yeah, Doug Sharpstein. I grew up in the community, played hockey at Winnetka Hockey growing up, played at New Trier, been very involved in the Winnetka Hockey program since moved back to the community in 2012, and passionate about hockey in this community and the product. So.
Like Doug, I'm John Wilson. I'm also a past president of the Winnetka Hockey Club. My family and I have, my wife and children and I have lived here for 13 years. I've been coaching and or a board member all of that time virtually. And my extended family, going all the way back to my grandparents, has been in Winnetka since the 1940s. Grew up playing hockey in the area, and you know, as I just said, still giving back to it.
Okay.
And then, so we have, as Costa mentioned, we've been working with Alyssa, Costa, and Paul a little bit to kind of figure out where we go from here. We originally had a concept of a pavilion that was passed here before COVID. And through that process, talking about it on the phone, we realized we might be able to put walls down. We knew the subterranean project was going on. We had to wait to see what was going to happen there. And then we engaged with the engineering firm, and they gave us back the report, which I think you guys have all seen by now. But yeah, we're here in front of you guys to ask that we can continue this process and work with Costa and Alyssa and see if we can come up with a concept that benefits the community as a whole.
To follow up on Brent's point there, we come at this from a hockey perspective. That's what Brent and Doug and I, that's where we focus our time on giving back to the community, and we have a dire need for more ice. And it's not just us, it's other stakeholders too. We don't need to get too lost in the weeds on that, but we came to the staff at the Park District because we interact regularly as representatives of the hockey club, probably the Park District's biggest tenant, and we said we have a problem here. And we started to ask questions, and this was an informal process and a series of conversations, and you know, several months or a year, whatever, however far we are down the line, we're simply asking to, I should go back and say, the Park District said, well, we have things that we need to. That's what we heard from the staff, and we said, great. Why don't we figure out where we can come to a consensus and see if we can all get what we need and want here. And so that series of conversations informed the feasibility study. The Park District has things that they need and want. The hockey club has things we need and want. And there are other stakeholders who we contacted throughout this process and said, tell us what you need and want in order to be part of this community. And so we've gotten to a point now where we have this feasibility study, and what we would politely request is that we be allowed to continue to have some staff time to, which I don't think we've abused, and I think that they would agree with that, to continue to explore this in the interest of all stakeholders in the community.
So as John mentioned, it was abundantly clear when we first talked to your team here, you guys need more indoor space. And we were thinking of creating a shell, a roof over everything. You can do whatever you want inside that space. We want our 2 sheets. But, I mean, there was a mention of 10 classrooms. Whatever you guys want in here, we want to make it work for everybody, all stakeholders involved. And that's the standpoint we're coming at it from, and I think we can find a solution here. Obviously, you guys have the study going on right now that is going to inform exactly what the community said and what the feedback has been, and we're waiting for the results of that. We plan to use that in conjunction with the Park District to figure out what exactly this building will look like.
So Brent, just to reiterate,
Yep.
the days of just having a single center ice hockey only concept, those are kind of over, right? It's all about, now it's around multi-purpose facilities for the broader community.
Correct. And right now, our club, we utilize 4 different sheets of ice. There's the one here that you guys know about, and we have North Shore, Studio at North Shore, and Watts. If we can bring it all in-house, that's better for the kids in our community, that's less travel time. There's also an economic benefit, eventually lower the cost of play and offer more auxiliary services to our club. So there are a lot of benefits for us, both convenience and economic.
Eric, if I could just also, can I follow up on Brent's answer there?
Please, Jim.
The Winnetka Hockey Club, which is one of the only clubs in the entire state, maybe the only club that self-imposes geographic boundaries in any way, shape, or form, uses 1/3 of its ice at this facility. 2/3 of our ice is used in Northbrook at North Shore Ice Arena. And the girls' club, the Warhawks, which started 7 years ago and is now a medium to large size club in its own right with several hundred players, growing year on year at about 20% according to their leadership, pays twice as much as we do to skate, and they bought 1,000 hours of ice a couple years ago in Buffalo Grove. And these are girls from our community. So I think the need for ice became abundantly clear in our first meetings with your staff, but to kind of follow up on the point that I made earlier, the staff said we also have pretty dire needs ourselves for indoor space, which is what Brent just mentioned.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, John. So just to reiterate, another challenge for the growing game of women's hockey, girls hockey, is that we have such limited space that we can't get our girls ice time here at Winnetka?
The girls
or what they need?
The girls have to drive to Buffalo Grove and pay twice as much to play.
And how far is that drive to Buffalo
It's
Grove?
at least 30 minutes with traffic, probably.
Right, at 6:30 it'd be 45.
Yeah.
We don't even have locker room facilities at this rink for girls. I mean, we just hosted the Thanksgiving tournament. Older girls don't want to dress with boys, obviously. We had to put them underneath the bleachers. And that's not equitable. We had style big camp here this summer. I dropped both my daughters off. 12 girls in one little referee room. That's where they had to be dressed all day. That's not fair. That's just, we haven't been able to change the times. The rink's over 50 years old. We can't add on to it because of the floodplain and FEMA rules. We have to floodproof the whole building. We just need to make it, bring it into this new era where girls are playing hockey, and that's growing much faster than the boys are.
Right, so when that rink was built in 1972,
yes,
the end users were different, and the expectations and the needs of the facility were different, right? And so here we are in 2025, we got to kind of keep up with the times. And I see our friend from the paddle program here, just like we added, for those of you who've been around a while, we added those new courts. One of the reasons was the growing of women's paddle participation at night and the growth of the club in general. And so it seems like a similar narrative to me.
It's all of those things, plus you have an aging facility that needs a lot of repairs very soon. That's a drain on the Park District's finances to a certain extent, and it's not getting any younger. I would foresee, not knowing a whole lot about managing an ice rink facility, additional expenses continuing as you have an aging facility.
Well, some plan, like the roof we know of, but I think it was last spring, the Zamboni floor caved in. And that's the stuff you can't plan
The
for.
repair and maintenance budget, I just looked at it, didn't look like you had a lot of bill in there.
So anyway, we came, again, for all of these reasons and more that we're discussing right now, we came to the people we know at the Park District and said, we have a problem here, right? And we had it started as us asking questions and trying to get an audience, and now at this point, I think all we're requesting with all of these things that you've heard is to continue to be allowed to engage the Park District staff with their time to continue to explore. We're not asking you to bless an ice rink. We're asking you to say, continue to explore this in the interest of all stakeholders of the community for not an ice rink, but for a multi-purpose facility. That's all we're requesting.
Do you have any scope to your request? Any scope in terms of hours, any scope in terms of results? Do you have any limits?
Sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
No, we do have a comprehensive master plan that will deliver some data for you.
Correct. I believe that we've probably had less than 10 meetings over a year and a half would be my estimate. I think that we've been respectful of the staff's time, and I think they would agree we've not abused it, but I think something along those lines of the conversation that's occurred naturally be allowed to continue. I'm sorry, that's totally unhelpful, but.
We don't anticipate anything going forward until we get the results back from the survey.
Okay.
And then kind of take it from there.
Okay, all right. So I know you have a pressing comment, and then Eric made some comments, and we'll go around the circle. Go ahead.
Sheriff, good to see you. We go way back. I'm always excited to see members of the community stepping up, like Colin, to say, yeah, I love this, I want to engage, how can I get it done? So for you guys, I would suggest, we've got a comp plan, it's underway, it's going to lead to a strategic plan, you got the caucus, focus your efforts on the fall caucus, and build support. You got to get community support. We are landlocked, you know that. We have a commitment to hockey already, so as use is established, we have certain parameters that are defined by the existing underground storage tanks. Can't build on top of them. So you know that, you've paid for a study, that's fantastic, so we have some guidance. But if you follow the path of the 2012 strategic plan, which identified improvements to the beaches, the next board said, okay, let's get a committee. And you guys are obvious members of the committee to carry this forward. Then you engage other stakeholders, find other representatives that would use the facility, use the ice, have input on this, have staff support, the staff liaison, and have a board member liaison. And that's how you get a plan to develop. You're gonna obviously need to be very considerate of planning and zoning considerations, your financial projections, or pro forma, looking at what commitments you can get. You guys already have commitments from Winnetka Warriors. What are the women's teams? What other commitments can you secure to, Nutria Hockey, to demonstrate that this is going to be, if not completely self-funding, at least it's going to carry what we all know to be a very expensive proposition. You know, refrigerated ice is not cheap. So those would be the steps. You got to build community support. You got to understand the planning and zoning, and you got to get through this comp plan and the strategic plan, and find a champion on this board. Find a champion that's going to carry it through on this board. So that would be my advice. I roll off in May, so it's not me. But find your champion and Godspeed.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you just, Eric.
Yeah, I would just add as you think about, for the board, for those of you who might not be involved in hockey, if you look at comparable aged rinks, the two communities that have, the last 5 years replaced them were Evanston and Glenview. And they're beautiful facilities, but particularly in Evanston, what they've done is become multi-purpose community centers. Evanston still has a library in there, so they have a library in their rink. They have track. They have basketball hoops. So you can dream big.
And Oakton is about to finish theirs, and that was the same rink as ours. They built about the same vintage.
It always looked like.
Yeah, and they're almost done with their 30. I think it was like a $34 million project.
Yeah, big price tags.
Yeah.
But that's where the aging facilities are. Just get a comp. So anyone's ever interested in taking a drive, we can go take a look.
Those to compare those to ours it's very informative.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, if I could add one more thing to the presentation. We're not asking necessarily for Park District funds to build this facility. What we're asking for is a public-private, at least what we're seeking. We're not asking you for this, but what we're conceptually thinking about is this would be funded through donations. And the reason for that is we want to keep the cost to participate in community programming, and I don't mean just hockey, as low as possible. So what we're trying to visualize here is a public, a contribution funded facility.
It's self-funded in perpetuity.
Self-funded through programming. And that's what we want to continue to explore.
Cynthia?
I want to thank you for coming. It's been informative to hear the presentation. I think that Commissioner James had very thoughtful comments in terms of the timing and being, focused on building support through the fall caucus. We have not seen the results of the comprehensive plan survey and that public input as a result of it. I think that we're supposed to see those next month with the intention of having the comp plan completed in the June timeframe for the board, and then the strategic plan to follow that. Is that correct, Shannon?
The timeline right now is, yes, so the next regular board meeting for February 27th, we're planning on having the consultant come in and review the public engagement, including the statistically valid survey, and then we expect that the comprehensive master plan will be complete probably July. And then from there, we will work on the first 5-year strategic plan from that.
So it sounds like the fall, like late summer and fall, will be really informative in terms of actually making decisions, and we'll have the data on the facility assessments and all of that.
Yeah, so the public engagement will be fairly swift. As we'll get all of that comprehensively back for next month's meeting, and then the master plan draft and final will likely be summer of this year.
Okay, no, and I would just echo Commissioner Cotto's comments about, we are a landlocked community. There's not a lot of available space. I expect that we will have a lot of opinions about what should be done with space, what should be kept open space, what should we do with it, what the different needs are. And I mean, I'm personally very eager to hear from the residents through the statistically valid survey on what their preferences are, because I think it's been a while since we've done one of these surveys. And so that's kind of where I am. I have, looked at the Green and Associates study. I can see that there are some, other thoughts and other considerations. I think in the interim, I, as everyone on this board knows, I am always eager to see what other park districts have done. So to the extent that you are able to, filter additional information from an educational standpoint on some of those other facilities in terms of financials and plans and such, I mean, I would certainly be interested in entertaining that. I don't go into any of these things with a view of this is what we need to do or not. I'm really looking to understand what the community wants, and then, hopefully take a more data-driven and fact-based approach to that as we move forward. So, thank you.
With that being redundant, thank you for coming. John, you were kind enough to sit down and talk to me, and one of the items you mentioned in November that I didn't hear tonight was for the UC an alternative use during certain times of the year with the second sheet of ice. I wonder if you could kind of share that.
Sure.
That comment.
We're trying not to abuse your time. So we could stand up here for a long time and talk about all the reasons why we think this facility should work. But yes, absolutely. In the series of conversations that we've had with the staff over simply just us asking questions, we don't, as a hockey club, and I don't believe the hockey community has a significant need for 2 sheets of ice here on Hibbard Road in the summertime, which actually worked really well with the park district, who was voicing to us that we do need more indoor space when we have our heaviest programming, because you have things like storms and for reasons I don't even know about. But they described a whole bunch of reasons why the park district needs more indoor space. And we said, great, we can melt a second sheet down in the summertime, and you have all the indoor sports programming you need, at least as far as we can tell through those informal discussions. It truly would be a multi-purpose facility that could be used for lacrosse or indoor soccer, or again, I don't do these things. I'm a hockey guy, but
my high school graduation was at the rink, actually.
Right, like all of these things when we're not skating at full speed in June and July, but the park district does have significant needs. That seemed to be very compatible. And again, this is just part of I don't know how long you want me to talk, Colleen, but
No,
we
it's
have,
fine.
we have
It's funny
explored
you
this as
mentioned
much as
that.
possible in the interest of all stakeholders. And again, that's what we're asking of the Park District Board is, can we just continue to explore this?
And then to reiterate very quickly what other commissioners have said, you know this, you're natives, getting community support, building support at all levels of local government. You know how to do this, yes. And then if you can self-fund this, that's exciting. Yeah, so thank you so much for coming tonight.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
Great. We have two more people. who want to
Oh,
ask
sorry.
questions. Sorry. Jeff?
Just a quick comment. Sounds very compelling. Sounds like it could be a win-win overall for everyone, so I'm excited to see what comes out of the survey. My comment is around next steps. Whenever you say we want to use staff time, we're asking you to use staff time, I want to know more what that means exactly, because obviously that can't be open-ended. So I think we need to define deliverables. I think we need to know what that next phase of analysis looks like and when it ends and when we say that it's complete. And then come up with an estimate as far as what staff time we think is going to be required as we look to weigh that against other things we have going on.
Fair.
So, thank you.
Then I just had a couple final questions that were raised by your earlier comments. Evanston, I was actually in those COVID level meetings.
Hey, speak to the mic.
Sorry, I was in the COVID level meetings and I should have looked up my notes. Evanston, how much did that cost and how much did Glenview cost?
Glenview was a
Ballpark.
disaster. They tried to add on the old rink and they got in there and found all sorts of different reasons why they couldn't do that. That was publicly funded as well. So different
Glenview was 35 million.
Okay.
in like 3 years the way.
And it was, they raised 17 or 18 on their own and they financed the other 17 or 18.
That it was?
Whatever,
Okay.
yeah.
I think Evanston was around 50-ish.
50.
Yeah.
Crown Foundation made some pretty significant donations, if not entirely.
To follow up on that question, that's what we're trying to understand is
Got it.
how much is this going to cost? Because if we want to go out there and fundraise, and we've had a lot of, informal, we're out there trying to fundraise already, but we don't even know what we're asking for, right? And so that's why we came to the Park District and said, can you help us figure out what this is going to cost, right? And so I feel like we're really close. We got the Green and Associates feasibility study. I think that was the first rough draft of what this, from there we're going to continue to narrow it down. We did on our own engage a different building firm that has built several of these types of facilities recently, who thinks they can do it for a lot less, but we're having those conversations with them. But eventually, they're going to have to engage the Park District to understand certain things that are beyond our scope, right? So this is, without knowing exactly what we're asking for, that's what we're doing generally, is trying to figure out what this is going to cost so that we can ask the community if we should go do this.
We won't know what it costs until we know what's going in there.
Right.
In terms of outside of the rinks, we won't know that until we get the
Right.
survey back.
I see it a little bit differently than some of the commissioners here. We have an asset, we have programming, we have no capacity, and we have demand. And so our choices are either repair the existing rink or replace it. And if we do choose to replace it, do we replace it with a bare bones minimum, or do we replace it with a multi-purpose facility? So that's how I see it. We've got to capture this business anyway because it's a core business for our park district. So I would just finally turn it over to Costa and say, would you like to set some scope? You've got the fullest plate here at the table. You've got the beaches, you've got everything. So I don't mean to put you on the spot tonight, but I would say, how do you want to, schedule these such that your calendar allows between the two of you? Yeah.
So if I could, President Cotto, the amount of engagement that we've had so far has basically gone to the feasibility study has been provided. My direction was to bring that information to the board because we are going through that comprehensive master plan project to understand what the needs are of the community as a whole, what's most important, where should we be putting our efforts, priority 1, priority 2, all the way to priority 152. And so with with that being on the horizon, I don't mind us engaging in the conversations of, hey, I think it would be good to have a basketball court, or hey, I think it would be good to have a track, or, you know, those types of things within like a type of facility. But further than that, like engaging engineers or anything like that, my thought on that is that should, we really need to see what comes of the comprehensive master plan and what the community as a whole is looking for, because we are starved for space.
Correct.
And so there's a lot of wants and needs, but not enough space for everything. So we want to make sure that we are looking at the needs of everybody and what are those priorities? Are there other things that need to be shifted or altered to make space for all of the things? Like maybe there's something else that isn't as popular as it once was, or something along those lines. But we don't know all of that yet.
So it sounds like we have some next steps.
We do.
We have comprehensive master plan report out in February. We have your feasibility study that we'll all take a look at, and then we'll match those two up, and then we'll circle back for a meeting. Does that sound like a good plan?
Yeah, I think that's fair to, you know, and I'll leave it to the folks from the Warriors about, you know, coming back maybe around March after we see that public engagement piece, to see where those priorities lie, and then the board can, after they've seen that presentation, they can look at that input from the community.
Okay. I think that works for everyone. I just wanted to come with some limits, just give you something. So we'll revisit this in March of 2025 after we've seen the comprehensive master plan results, and we'll continue to talk until then. Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank
for
you.
your time. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, item number 6.1, Crow Island Woods Restoration Update. It's Shannon.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. All right, so I did meet with the village and school district 36 on Friday the 10th to further have more conversation about Crow Island Woods and the restoration of the area that was disturbed due to the stormwater project. I believe that we've made good headway in that conversation. We had a consultant that went out to the site, did some testing of the soils and that sort of thing. They met, GEI met with the village and with Strand, who is the village's consultant on the stormwater project as well, to come to an understanding of the technical terms within that study. So there was conversation about, you know, the depths of potential excavation, sodded areas, compaction rating, those types of things. So long story short is that there does seem to be a want by the village to have this resolved with the excavation of what's there currently, replacing it with clean soil and then sodding that over. So right now the next steps, as I understand them, is that Strand is preparing a report for the village and for GEI, who was our consultant on the report, to review, to make sure that they are all on the same page of what those things mean. And then they'll provide that back to us to review and make sure that we're in agreement with those remedies. And there's the hope right now that we should be able to have it excavated, the soil replaced with clean soil, and then sodded by March, April timeframe, weather dependent.
Got it. Okay. Good. Any questions? Any comments?
So there are 3 areas that were contaminated with broken glass. Crow Island School, the berm behind it, Crow Island Park, the area east of the shelter, and the pathway leading out to Euclid, and the Euclid Avenue right-of-way. Are the remediation standards going to be equal for all three areas, or are they different?
So School District 36 is going to have a similar meeting that focuses on their area in the upcoming weeks. I will be a part of that as well, since we've been kind of lockstep with the school district in these conversations. But it should be fairly similar based on the excavation and replacing the topsoil and sodding it over. Should be very similar, but that meeting hasn't occurred yet. As the Euclid right-of-way, that's village property, I don't have any insight on that particular area, as that wasn't brought up in our meeting.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions with regard to the remediation? Okay. Moving on, we're going to skip 6.2, 6.3, and 6.4 until after closed, correct?
And 6.5.
And 6.5 until after closed. Excellent. So now, Mr. Cross, Winnetka Platform Tennis Club Agreement. And I think the memo from Elisa, if you'd like to start us off.
Sure. The agreement includes, it's a revised, an updated agreement, I should say. Our current agreement expired August 31st of 2024, and staff has been working very closely with the Paddle Club Board to draft the new agreement with some tweaks to them. The proposed agreement expires December 31st, 2027, 3 years, with 2 one-year options to renew. And then there is one little section of some language that does need to be clarified by either Shannon or Adam.
Okay.
Yeah, so we worked closely with the Platform Tennis Club on this to come up with language that was agreeable to both parties. The one area for consideration at this point, which is it basically goes to what level of risk that the Park District is willing to take on. And so the language that was in the last agreement and the language that we've proposed is listed on the agreement as under current language, and then the Platform Tennis Club has proposed alternative language as well. So basically, the only difference is the level of risk that the Park District is willing to take on.
And I see Adam has turned on his microphone in anticipation of my next question, which is, Adam, can you give us some insight into the differences between these two?
Sure. The open language is on page 7 of the agreement, and
it's page 108 of the packet, if anyone's following along.
Thank you. Paragraph 5 is indemnification, and the way to read this is you read the last sentence where it goes from, against and from, and then there's the 2 alternatives after against and from. The language that's current shows that the tennis club would have to indemnify the Park District for any claims resulting from the tennis club's breach of their contract. So they wouldn't only have to indemnify the Park District for personal injury claims suffered at the court, but if they breached the contract, they would have to indemnify us for claims that result from that breach. They're proposing to limit their indemnity to claims resulting from their negligence, which is already covered in the balance of the paragraph above. So they would exclude an indemnity from claims resulting from their breach of the contract. That's the simple explanation of the difference.
What is our standard language or our standard indemnification profile with our other affiliates?
I don't know if I've seen a lot of the affiliate agreements, so I don't know if I'm familiar with the standard.
Okay. Well, in your experience then with other park districts, what's their standard?
I like to make it as broad as possible. we're providing it to them. I mean, the Park District provides the tennis court to the community as a whole. But in exchange for the exclusivity and access and control, we require something in consideration for that. And because of the degree of oversight and control they have, this is part of the quid pro quo, if you will.
Okay. Any other comments from commissioners? Lawyer, Tony?
Not in Illinois. I guess when I was looking at what the club proposed, they were saying negligence solely caused. And what I wondered was if we might be able to reach some sort of resolution where the club would consider the language that we, the district, have proposed, by then adding at the end of it, except to the extent caused by the negligence or willful misconduct of the district. So that on the negligence standard, you know, if we do something, we agree, we stand responsible if we're negligent or we do something willful. I'm somewhat confused as to why the club would not want to indemnify us should they breach the contract, because as I understand it, this is a very vibrant sport here, and the club is very, very active to the extent we needed to have 2 additional courts. So I'm wondering why there is such concern about not agreeing to cover in the most unlikely event they breach. So these are just questions.
Let me address your first comment. The tennis courts are considered recreational property. And in Illinois, under the Tort Immunity Act, the Park District's not liable for simple negligence on recreational property. And so I wouldn't want to contractually obligate ourselves to be responsible for our negligence if we wouldn't be under normal Illinois law.
All right.
So maybe if the park board wanted to, we could exclude claims resulting from our gross negligence or willful and wanton conduct. That would even encroach a little bit on areas of our immunity, but it would represent some measure of good faith. But I don't, I can't speak for them why they wouldn't want to cover claims resulting from their breach. I don't know if there's a representative from the tennis club.
There is, and I was just about to call him up if he wanted to, and then we can get to the other commissioners' comments immediately following. Colin Cross, please.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm Colin Cross, and president of the Winnetka Platform Tennis Club. This is one area of the contract that I really don't like to have to negotiate, because I'm not an attorney. So the comment is coming from my attorney, Charlie Brown. I don't think there's a big issue here. I think that his comment, if I read it, and Shannon, I think you got his email on that, was that there was, because of, if there's a breach of the contract that we do, we pay attorney's fees. And there's another section of the contract that says if there's any kind of issue that we have, that the prevailing party pays attorney's fees. And so Charlie Brown, my attorney, sits on the board, pro bono for us, said, they're kind of overreaching there on the attorney's fees, because it's any breach automatically pay. That's the way I read his email, and so I'm not really too hung up on whether it's negligence, gross negligence, piercing any kind of immunity. That's really not what we're trying to get at here. And frankly, it's something that's never come up, and hopefully it never does. I kind of see it, indemnification, as a way for the Park District to get into our insurance policy, because we don't have much otherwise. Just to be clear, we're a small club and we might have a little money in the bank, but there's not much there. We're doing this as a community service, and it's a partnership, quote unquote, but we're doing this to enhance the platform tennis community experience in Winnetka, to make it as good as we can. I think we're doing a pretty good job at it, but I'm not personally too hung up on whether we're talking about negligence or gross negligence. But I will point out that grabbing attorney's fees under any breach, although as a non-attorney, I'll just throw out, if there's a breach, don't you have a claim against me anyway? But again, I don't fully understand the whole indemnification thing and why that goes beyond just a regular breach. It's like, if I breach, it's like then you make a claim and then it's okay, now we have to resolve it. And that's what I would have expected, but anyway, that's my thoughts. I don't know, I'm not that helpful because it's not the part of the contract I really want to, I don't have any expertise in.
But that's helpful, because it sounds like the critical issue for you is the legal fees. Do you want to
It
make some?
seemed to be, that's what Charlie was saying, yes.
Gotcha, okay. Do you want to make some?
I don't read the same way Charlie does. I think that if we allege, if there's actually a dispute whether we claim there's a breach of contract, they're gonna claim they're not in breach, so they're not gonna indemnify us until after the fact. If there's a judgment and we prevail, we would go after them for the indemnity after there's a judgment that there's a breach. So I don't think it's, in this case, it's probably retroactive indemnity instead of, prospective indemnity, so.
And I think too, that when looking at the paragraph that we have, is that where it says including but not limited to legal fees, it's used as kind of an example of what it could be. So it's more utilized as an example of what those claims, costs, causes, actions, etc. Yeah.
Okay.
Commissioner Rea, do you have any comments on the language? Okay. Commissioner Lawson?
None for me.
Commissioner James?
Nope.
Okay. Commissioner Tyson?
No, thank you.
Okay.
I'm inclined to just accept the current language because I think that we've worked together in good faith, hoping that it's not a deal breaker because we do enjoy our partnership with you enormously, and the current language seems to map to what our attorney's experience is in all other arenas. Do we need a motion? Yes, may I have a motion to utilize the highlighted current language in section V5 and approve the agreement with the Winnetka Platform Tennis Club?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Okay. And any other additional discussion? Okay, that's a roll call vote, Denise.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Kodo?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Okay. Perfect.
Thank
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
Permanent tea times, item number 7.2.
Good evening and Happy New Year. So a couple updates for you real quick before we get into the permanent tea times. If you hadn't seen, we did get the certification from the
Miles,
Audible.
introduce yourself to everybody on TV.
Hello, I'm Miles Tucker, the general manager at Winnetka Golf Club. December 31st, we actually received the Audubon Sanctuary certification.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So that just recognizes the hard work of the Park District, Andrew Gardner and his team on, just environmental stewardship at the golf course. So exciting there. We also received top 50 designation for public courses for our driving range. That just recognizes, the quality of our practice facilities and the size and use. So getting into permanent tee times, the permanent tee time program is an opportunity for golfers to reserve tee times through the heart of the season. It is a guaranteed tee time for them each week. We'd be doing it 2 days on Saturdays and Sundays. So, a group may have, say, an 8 o'clock tee time, and they would have that same 8 o'clock tee time for every week during the permanent tee time program. So, scroll down to the pricing. So I provided pricing of all of our local competition and our proposed pricing. So proposed pricing is pretty in line with all of our competition, especially when you consider daily fee rates at our competition compared to here. So we are proposing a non-resident cost of $1,400, a resident cost of $1,260, so that's that 10% discount. We have 18 weeks, including the Labor Day weekend, that they would be guaranteeing their tee times with a $135 resident fee, $150 non-resident fee. And then how the tee times are assigned, it would be similar to Glenview. We would take each group's top 3 selections, what they want, and then plot them on our tee sheets accordingly. So pretty equitable. I know some other courses in the area that do that as well. So Any questions?
Commissioner
I'm happy to go
Tyson?
second.
Okay. We'll go
I'm
from
ready
this
to
side
go
of the room,
second.
alternating sides of
It's
the
not
room.
gonna be a great question. You can tell by this question that I've never had a permanent tea time.
Yeah.
But I see there's a cost.
Yes.
And the fee you mentioned.
Yes.
Help me understand when you
Yeah,
get.
sorry. So yes, the cost is they are paying the grace fees for all of the tea times. So they're paying upfront for all of their tea times. So we have that guaranteed revenue, so if they don't show up, we're not.
Okay, so they pay the cost to get the permanent tea time,
Correct,
and
which-
then you hit them for 18 or whatever the times the.
Yeah, basically.
On top of that,
Yeah,
okay.
which 4 out of our 6, I believe, 4 out of the 6 local courses do that.
Like I said,
Only
I've never
two
had a
of-
permanent tea time,
only-
so I was
yeah,
curious how it
Only
worked.
2 of them charge you on a weekly basis. That would be Heritage Oaks and Deer Path.
Right, so Jeff, you and 3 friends could get the 8 o'clock tea time on Saturday
have it
mornings for the course of
every
the summer,
week.
$1,400.
Yep.
And that would be
Every
your
Saturday,
Saturday fee. So
8
then,
a.m.
if you're walking, you don't pay anything, you just check in. If you pay card fees, then you just pay your card fee each week.
Thank you.
Warren, any questions?
Nope.
Eric,
None.
any questions? Commissioner Rapp?
I had a question about
Yes.
how residents are prioritized through this process. I did see the data from November about the resident, percentage of Browns. As an elected official, I do feel like there's some opportunity to improve upon that.
Okay.
And so I'm just wondering if you can talk about how this program will be specifically marketed and available to residents, and then just more generally, not tonight, it doesn't need to be tonight, but just, be thinking about when the course reopens, how to engage more resident participation as well.
Of course.
It's unclear to me if, like, things were unusual with the reopening of the course, because I know the men's club, for example, was not out there in the same way that they will be when the course reopens. But if you could just touch on those points, that would be a help.
Yeah, so there's nothing specific with the permanent tea times. I can tell you that just looking at the groups that were part of our permanent tea times in 2022, 2021, and it's as far back as I have. I don't know the exact number. I would say it's probably well over 75% of the golfers are Winnetka residents. As far as daily fee, the residents do have the benefit of 14-day in advance tea times, where general public would be 10 days. So that is something we are prioritizing. We could explore looking at that for permanent tea times, but
And I believe too, like when you look at the number of available permanent tea times that we have, it's more than we've ever sold. So it is more availability to allow for more individuals to have those tea times. So we, when Miles was looking at, how many do we offer, we wanted to make sure that it was a little bit more than what the average was of what we had sold previously.
Okay, no, I mean, if the resident participation is in line with past history, that's phenomenal, like that, yay. I would be completely happy, happy to see that. So, like, let's hope, and people have been asking about this, I think, so.
Okay, so sorry, Miles, just to follow up on Commissioner Rapp's comment, I think it's a good one. Would you ever consider or explore staggering like the sign-up window for residents ahead of non-residents? Is that
absolutely something we could do.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just to kind of get the word out, like, so 14 versus 10 days.
March 15th for residents, and March 1st for residents, and 15th for non-residents. or
Something like that.
Something similar, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Be a nice way to kind of clear the deck.
Yeah, definitely.
Excellent.
Commissioner Rapp covered my
Question.
concern and.
Excellent.
Thank you.
May I have a motion to approve the permanent tea time fees for the Winnetka Golf Club?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any additional discussion? That's a roll call vote, Denise.
Commissioner James?
Oh,
Just with the provision that Commissioner Lesson proposed with
yes,
the.
staggering the
Staggering the
resident,
availability.
non-resident by 2 weeks. That's a roll call vote, Denise.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner Proto?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Thank you. Item 7.3, the golf course cart barn fire suppression project phase 2, Costa.
Christina, thank you. As you probably recall, back in May of 2024, the Park District undertook and approved phase 1 of this project. We knew this was going to be a multi-year project due to the request and the requirements for fire safety code to meet those regulations for the community. Based on the time of the budget, where we're at with construction and the sequencing, staff thought it was best to delay phase 2 until the 2025 budget could be programmed and budgeted and approved. And here we are, now that that has been completed, looking to act upon that. Park District went back to the original contractor who phased the work in for the first phase, went back to Baird Construction Company through the JOC program, which we've used, the Job Order Contracting Program, aka JOC, that we've used previously before. The request in front of the board this evening is to approve the work order for the proposed submittal of $94,607.01 to complete the necessary work to meet that requirement. I'm not going to go through the scope piece by piece, but essentially what this entails is cutting into the current fire riser in the clubhouse facility, taking that 6-inch water main, taking it through the facility, taking it below earth, below grade, through the earth, below the frost line, out to the cart barn facility, bringing it into that facility, and essentially heating up the existing system that was put in 2024. That is a requirement due to the village in not able to have 2 designations of water service for a facility. One address can only have 1 water service for the facility. So that's something that we had to accommodate. The request in front of you, like I said, is for $94,607.01. We are confident in the contract and the ability to do this. There will be some work that will need to be completed by Kemper Sports and the golf course maintenance team as far as the restoration efforts. We felt those would be best suited to be had by the golf course staff to put that back in, considering we're going to be essentially trenching through the chipping green that is just west of the driving range teaching shelter. Just at the time, please note, the Choice Partners agreement was extended till February 24th of 2025, February 23rd of 2026, with another provision to extend that natural purchasing another year. So that has been completed. I have that approval, and I have that noted as well, just to affirm that that was completed. That was completed back in October 15th of 2024. So the contract has been renewed and will continue through the 25 construction season. If I can answer any questions the board might have on this subject matter, I'd love to.
I think you provided a very thorough memo. Thank you very much. I will look around the room. Are there any questions from any commissioners? It's always a very thorough memo, and this is part 2, so. Okay. May I have a motion to approve the proposal from Bear Construction Company through the JOC program for the quoted price of $94,607.01?
So moved.
Second.
Eric, thank you. Any additional discussion? I think we're good. And that's a roll call, please.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Proto?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Okay. Item 7.4, Executive Director Objectives. We're discussing the objectives that we're setting for our Executive Director for her second year, starting February 1st, 2025 through January 31st, 2026. And these were handed out to you at the end of the December 19th board meeting. Take a look. We can have a discussion about these, and then we can take a look and see. Do you need a copy?
No.
Everyone's got a copy?
I do not have a copy.
Take mine. Another one. So we've had these. Everyone has had a copy of these in a packet, likely since December 19th. Consequently, I would be grateful for any comments or additions, and we'll go around the table. If anyone, Jeff, do you have any additions, deletions, corrections, adjustments?
Seems thorough.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Warren?
Nope, no comments.
I'll let Eric have a moment to review, and that would be Commissioner Rapp.
Yes, thank you for putting this on the agenda. This is the first time in my board tenure that the executive director objectives have appeared, or any specific staff objective. So I think that that's a good first step, and that's good progress, because I'm hopeful that as we undertake the comprehensive plan and the strategic plan, that will become a bigger part of our MO in terms of having those departmental objectives, so it is clear and transparent to the community. The one area, and this has been a consistent comment, not specific to Executive Director Nizal, but also in my comments that were not in public on this document or previous iterations of this document, is just having some more like an explicit customer objective, because I mean, there's a little bit of it in the comprehensive master plan, but it's not as tied. In the 2017 strategic plan, there was a big focus on customer engagement and community focus. We will strive to know what our constituents want with a keen focus on the desires and demands of past, present, and future customers. We will remain customer-centered, anticipate user needs, and engage in thoughtful and frequent dialogue with the community at large to determine how to best utilize and enhance park assets. And I mean, we do some of this in different ways, but I just think it's not necessarily called out as an objective. And in the table that came from the 2017 plan, there was a rank-ordered list. It says at the bottom, note the numbering of objectives does indicate anticipated order of priority. Number 1 is customer engagement and community focus, and number 1 of 1 is develop and implement district-wide customer service standards and communication plans. And so I am confident that ED Nizal gave thought to objectives that were thought to be reasonable. I think that the comp plan and the strategic plan in the same year is going to be a very heavy lift to achieve that. But I wanted to point out at least what I see as, a gap, so that as we are going through the process and the planning, that's recognized and acknowledged. I believe that staff do an excellent job, like in their day-to-day interactions with customers. I think that when a constituent, a resident brings a concern to ED Nizal, it's handled. I think that when staff, receive feedback from residents about, parks not being clean, we have staff out there at, 6 in the morning on a holiday to make sure that our parks look pristine and beautiful. But it concerns me to not have, some objective in that area, because it is such a big part of the role of the organization. And if you look at any business, put your customer first. The other comment that I'd have is just, there's also no financial objectives. We've done well at, running large surpluses, but I do think that's also an area to be more mindful of as we go through these planning processes, in terms of, some form of budget accuracy and not overtaxing and, managing our revenues, which we are doing, but again, it's not an explicit objective. So that was my comments and feedback. The last one is just the timeline for the staffing plan. Is that anticipated in first quarter and second quarter? Is it falling out from the comp and strategic plan, or is that going to come sooner? That's something also to just think about. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Root, anything to add?
Well, I guess I also have a question about how we weight these objectives. Since I've been on the board, the number 1 objective has been the Lakefront Master Plan, but we can see as our results come in on the strategic plan what our community thinks. But again, to reiterate points made by Commissioner Rapp, when I pulled the 2017 strategic plan, the number 1 plank is what I'll call it, was community focus. And so however we can try to listen to our community and to incorporate that, I think that's important. And then as far as a financial objective, I was looking at budget accuracy and full transparency. And I think as executive director, you've been very helpful this year in improving transparency in the budget. But again, how do we articulate that into an objective for you? So thank you.
Okay. So we have some suggestions, I think, that may naturally fall out of the comprehensive master plan and the strategic plan. Oh, let me circle around to you, Eric, sorry.
Yeah, if I had to list the four, these would be it. The comment just around from Commissioners Rapp and Commissioner Root around community engagement, I think of that as job one of the Park District every single day, right? And I think I see it reflected, but so to identify it could be tough. Customer satisfaction, I don't know how we get there for conducting surveys on programming and getting emails when you do open skate, whatever, I don't know. But it's food for thought and can be captured.
So, all right, so my final comment is that I do think we have some customer responsive pieces built into this. And I think that she has endeavored, Executive Director Mazal has endeavored to respond to any constituent concern within 24 hours, which I think is admirable, and she's massively increased the amount of communication with the weekly reporting for all of us to our benefit, and then now that it's all public and part of the board packet, I think that's enormously helpful to constituents, and I see constant constituent engagement in that document. And I do think that some of the items that you address will naturally fall out of the comprehensive master plan and then the strategic plan. So I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the executive director 2025-2026 objectives as presented.
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
And then Denise, I'd like that to be a roll call vote.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner Koto?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Okay. Perfect. Executive Director's report.
All right. Well, now that I have my objectives for the next year, I'm ready to go. As always, weekly status reports are attached for you, as well as the update for the golf club. This meeting, we did not have the legal expenses in time for the meeting, but the expenses for December and January will be at the February meeting because that's a later meeting date. So we ran into a couple snafus with, the holiday in January that kept us from getting some of those earlier. And then I'll answer any questions you may have.
Commissioner Root, any questions? Commissioner Rapp, any questions? Commissioner Lawson?
None.
Commissioner
No, thank you.
Tyson? I have no questions. Excellent, complete reporting, obviously has proven to be extremely efficient. Thank you for your efforts. Commissioner comments, item number 9. We can go around the circle this way. We have other things, and then we're going into close, and then we're coming back out, and we have those other things at the end, so.
Could you speak into the mic?
Yeah, sorry, Commissioner comments. There was a question if we should hold Commissioner comments to the true end of the meeting, but we have several items to address after the closed. So let's do Commissioner comments now, and we will take action after closed. So Jeff, any comments from you?
No comment.
Excellent. Warren?
It's a little out of sequence. I had asked that a few exhibits be inserted into the board packet that show prior versions of our plans for Elder and Centennial. There have been comments made regarding a lack of a comprehensive plan approach, and those comments are inaccurate. There have been multiple comprehensive plans. presented. We had 3 open houses in 2023 in which we discussed a series of those plans, and the exhibits that are included show some of the results of those planning efforts. There are multiple versions of this because we have continued to chase changing directives from the Village of Winnetka. The Park District adopted a resolution in May of 2023 that embraced the principles that were resolved through various motions in October of 2022. The village subsequently adopted ordinances in July, the first in March, then in July, which substantially changed the directives in the zoning ordinance that necessitated further changes to the plan. That's the difference between the March version and the October version. In addition, you'll see in those plans that in some versions the existing elder pier is there, and in other versions it's not. The village knew our intent to remove the pier, been there since day one. We want to relocate the storm sewer further north, separate storm from swimming. It's always been an objective of the master plan. The village told us through prior work they had no intention of removing the pier. We countered that there were significant improvement or repairs needed. The pipe at the end had not, in fact, been tested, that it was chunks of metal had broken off. We've demonstrated that. The village suddenly came back and said, okay, we're good with removing the pier. So we modified the plan again to remove the pier. So what you see, the plan you see being moved through the Plan Commission next week for Centennial is reflective of the October 2023 approved plans. The delay, here we are in 25, again is precipitated by the village abeyance period that was implemented in July 6th of 2023 that resulted in a 9-month delay before we could submit any permits. So we submitted for Centennial Park on April 3rd as soon as we possibly could. There were 6 months of back and forth of very detailed comments before we were slated to hear our first hearing before the ZBA in October of 2014. After 3 sessions, we got a result there, and now we move on to the Plan Commission. That's next week, January 22nd, 2025. It's been a long road.
Thank you. Commissioner Lawson?
No comments tonight?
Excellent. Commissioner Rapp?
No, I've made all my comments during the relevant
Course of the meeting.
parts.
Excellent, thank you. Commissioner Root?
2 quick comments. First of all, thank you staff for getting Indian Hill Ice Rink up and running and for getting the Indian Hill warming hut up and going. And kudos to Bob, who was out there throughout this weekend filling in all the divots. The kids were really happy, as were their relatives. To clarify a comment that was given this evening by Attorney Ahrens, I had the opportunity to actually read the memorandum and opinion on the Schresheim versus the IDNR case, and I wanted to clarify that this ruling was ruled only on a procedural issue of standing. It did not address the merits of the issue. And it certainly didn't approve in any way what the applicant had done in 205 Sheridan. So I just wanted to clarify that because I thought that Attorney Ahrens' comments were less than clear on that point. Thank you.
I have no comments this evening. So that closes Commissioner comment. May I have a motion? We will be going into closed session. And then we'll be coming back out of closed session, and we have a couple of agenda items after closed session, as well as some votes. May I have a motion to go into closed session pursuant to 5 ILCS 120/2C1, the appointment, employment, compensation, performance, or dismissal of specific employees,
5 ILCS 120/2C3, the selection of a person to fill a public office. 5 ILCS 120/2C5, the purchase or lease of property. 5 ILCS 120/2C6, the setting of a price for sale or lease of property. 5 ILCS 120/2C11, litigation, when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of the particular public body has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent. May I have that motion to go into closed?
So moved.
Second.
Excellent. Thank you. That's a roll call vote to go into closed.
Commissioner Lawson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson? Yes. Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Koto?
Yes.
That motion passes, and
7:32. Excellent. Okay. We will, if anybody needs a 4-minute break to clear the room.
Shout out to former Commissioner Harney.
Yes.
No, she said, I actually handed them to you there, she said that she wants to.
In the big.
Shannon or Denise?
Denise.
I'll let you know what I'm saying.
My printer was freaking out and spit out 3 of them. Anybody wants one?
Oh.
It should be.
This is the old, this is the original March plan.
Is that the one that is, I'll be happy to have it.
Are we here? Are we ready to go?
Is it on? It's wearing progressives.
It's a 1 minute delay. It goes through someplace.
Oh, sure, if you, why throw
We're
it
just
away?
gonna go to, yeah.
Yeah.
it's just-
Wanna get an eye?
We're just making sure we're making sure the live feed is on.
We're on.
Okay, we're on.
What number are we going on?
6.2, okay?
Thank you.
President Coto,
All set?
we're all set.
Okay. We are now back in the regular meeting at 8:26, and all commissioners present earlier are still in attendance. We're going to work through the rest of this agenda because it will go very quickly and then work back to the longer items. Item 10.1, the appointment of a new board member. May I have a motion to accept the application of David Seaman to fill the board vacancy?
So moved. Second.
Roll call vote?
Commissioner Rapp?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Coto?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Excellent. I will give him the good news. Item number 11.2, Executive Director Employment Contract. We have reviewed and approved terms of the Executive Director's new contract. The term will run from February 1st, 2025 through February 1st, 2028. The compensation will be $213,200, and the $10,000 annual bonus was approved. May I have a motion to approve? Do we need to make a motion, or we just announce?
Make a motion.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve the contract as described?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote?
Can I make a clarification?
Yes.
We're approving the contract. There's a compensation value of $250,200, and it's a 3-year contract beginning February 1st, 2025, starting on January 30th,
Correct.
2028. Separately, we are authorizing and approving a $10,000 bonus for performance from the prior year.
Correct.
Thank you, much appreciated.
Thank you.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp?
Yes.
Commissioner Coto?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we'll circle back to item 6.3, which I think is the first on our list of tabled items.
We have 6.2, but
Okay. You want to do 6.3 because it'll go
Why don't we
faster?
do that?
Okay, perfect. Settlement agreement, Shrewsheim versus Winnetka Park District. May I have a motion? Hold on just one second. Let me get to the right place. May I have a motion to approve the settlement agreement, Shrewsheim versus Winnetka Park District as presented?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any additional discussion? That's a roll call vote.
Well,
Oh,
should we
sorry.
not describe this for people that are not?
It's a public document, it's all
Okay.
been posted. Happy to save some time, but any additional discussion? You want to make comments about positive?
Oh, happy to.
Meeting each other in the middle, let's make 3 comments and vote. Sorry, don't mean to constrain you.
Anytime that you can settle fairly litigation, it's a benefit for all parties concerned. I see this as a successful negotiation and settlement in that the beach has been preserved for the citizens of Winnetka and the citizens of Illinois, and will not be subject to conveyance to any independent third party that's not a governmental unit. And so in a way, it is a victory for the public trust.
Good. Warren?
I agree with Commissioner Root. Anytime you can settle, it's a good thing. In this instance, we are settling without either side admitting right, wrong, indifferent. The first 2 claims, as you know, are dismissed with prejudice. The third claim was regarding the public trust doctrine. In my opinion, is that it's a muddled matter in the state of Illinois. But what has been decided is that the Park District will retain and will not convey, under any circumstances, the beach, which is that portion of the land from the steel bulkhead lakeward. And I think that it comports with the plans for the dog beach, and this is a good thing for the community. The Park District will retain ownership of the beach. It's a good deal.
So we're roll call vote to approve the settlement agreement as described, as presented.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Cotto?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Excellent. I think 6.5 is going to go a lot faster than the other 2. Boldly, this is the appointment of a stormwater IGA committee. This is my agenda item, and I think we have a number of people who have expertise in negotiating stormwater agreements with each other. So I would like to propose that we bring in Angie Kripe to be on our stormwater IGA committee, along with Warren James, and bring in Mickey Archambault. Those 3 people, together with Chris Rintz from the village and Rob Apatoff from the village, would be the negotiating teams. We would put forth 3 people who have participated in the past in successfully negotiating stormwater agreements. So may I have a motion to approve go ahead. Question, and just have a motion and then a second.
Discussion.
So may I have a motion to designate those 3 people as the stormwater IGA committee?
So moved. Second.
Excellent. Discussion. Yes.
I think it's lovely that we're bringing history to the table, but I've always found it helpful to also bring new faces to the table also, because they bring new ideas. And I see a commissioner here, Commissioner Rapp, who is very dedicated, has been part of this for a number of years. I would like to suggest that she be added to our team so that she might bring a unique perspective and not the history, which can be sometimes problematic. I'm somewhat concerned that we're bringing back Mickey Archambault for this, when we have Warren and your years of experience, and where we have Andy Kripe coming in, who sat on the other side. I'm curious as to why Mickey is not that, his comments might not be valuable, but it seems like we're getting a large number of people, and I'm just curious why.
I liked the idea, and it was presented to me by Andy when I asked him if he would step forward to serve on our board. And he said, I'd rather serve in a limited capacity in an area where I have experience.
Well, I don't.
Yeah, and
I'm
I think
all for
he-
Andy.
yeah.
I think that's great.
Yeah, I think Andy's great. I also think Mickey's great, and I think Warren's great. And I think they all, as I said, they've all had experience negotiating together.
And I think
Um,
Cynthia is super, and she'll bring a new face and some new ideas. So I'd like to make a proposal that she be considered.
Okay, so that's a motion within this motion.
However we do it,
Make the motion.
I would like to
Motion
amend.
Motion to amend.
I would like to amend the motion that, and someone has to read the motion back, but that we, as part of our team, we have Nikki Archambault, we have Andy Cripe, we have Christina Cotto, I guess. Warren-
No, I'm
You're
not. No.
Warren James, and then Commissioner Cynthia Rapp.
Second?
I'll second in the interest of moving forward. I still have a question, but
Can we get a roll call vote?
Wait,
Oh,
can we, are we,
Discuss? Yeah.
should we discuss?
Go ahead and discuss before we vote on this
Well,
amended motion.
Yeah.
I think it's too many people.
Okay.
Can we propose an alternate?
I don't think we need 4 people, but go ahead, and that's another amendment.
Well, he hasn't made the motion yet, he's just
Yeah.
deliberating.
Okay, this
can I
is-
ask a question?
Yes.
So this is a committee appointed by the president. And I'm just wondering how this fits in with our committee of the whole rules. Do these committees require public notices? Do they, like,
This committee has a specific purpose. They will have a specific mandate, and they will report to the board on anything that they decide, and we will have to vote on what they produce.
Can I offer a little more?
Sure.
This is a committee that is entering into negotiations with another governmental body. There is specific technical expertise that is necessary to evaluate the efficacy of the various stormwater solutions. Christine and I attended a meeting last night with Strand. They made an outstanding presentation, outlined solutions, Tuesday night, for outstanding solutions for all of East Winnetka that will have a significant impact. I don't think it is, well, I will say this on behalf of Andy Cripe, having negotiated 2 IGAs with Andy, he's an excellent listener, a thoughtful participant, and I think to the extent that he could help bridge some of the divides, I think that is exceedingly helpful. But ultimately, these are going to be technical solutions that are going to involve significant costs to the village and to the park district, and that to understand the technical issues is an imperative to negotiate for the best interest of the community. I think 4 people is too many.
May I respond?
We're gonna go once around, so if this is gonna be your once around,
Fine.
go right ahead.
In the past, we've had teams of 2 commissioners. And as I understand, Andy Cripe, a very meritorious gentleman, he is not a commissioner. Mickey Archambault is a retired commissioner, he does not sit on the board. That is why I'm suggesting that we add a second commissioner. Technical as it may be, Andy's an excellent attorney, he's not a technical person. Mickey, as I understand, had great experience with stormwater, but he's a property manager. Again, not an engineer, not a technical person. I have great confidence in Commissioner Rapp that she's a quick study and very detail oriented.
Any other comments?
I am questioning under our policies if you can actually do this. Section 4.3, composition of committees. I can't remember if we changed this because our policy manual was kind of such in a muddle. But the president with board approval shall appoint to the committee the number of commissioners deemed appropriate and shall name 1 commissioner as committee chair. All commissioners, the board officers, and the executive director shall serve as ex officio members of all committees. So,
I'm getting there. So I think these are standing legislative. I think this section of the policy refers to standing legislative committees. And that's really not what the purpose of this is. I mean, we have, you could call this a stormwater liaison instead of calling it a committee.
Would
But-
residents usually sit on a stormwater liaison role in a non-public meeting?
I would liken it to like the decennial committee, which was made up of community members as
That was
well.
By statute with open meetings.
These are contractual negotiations, are they not?
They are.
Yeah. So aren't these bound by confidentiality? Nothing is, these are going to be very detailed discussions, and they're confidential until we come back to our boards, report, get consent, and then go back into the negotiation and get further advice from the board, and then ultimately arrive at a document that each party can bring to their boards for approval. It's a negotiation. It's not a committee, per se.
Well, then if that's the case, then how are we getting to the appointment of 2 residents on the committee?
The board has discretion to choose who represents the park board in negotiations.
It's just unclear to me in our policies where the authorization is.
Well, I think that 4.3 enables the board to establish committees of the whole. It doesn't restrict the board from creating negotiating committees.
Okay, so we've completed our discussion. We have an amendment that's been made and seconded, and we went once around. We've had an amendment that's been made and seconded. Let's vote on the amendment, which is the 4-person team.
Is this the motion with Commissioner Rapp?
This is the motion to amend the motion to add Commissioner Rapp to the committee.
Commissioner James?
No.
Commissioner Lesson?
No.
Commissioner Rapp?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
No.
Commissioner Koto?
No.
That motion fails.
Okay. So now we're voting on the original motion, which is to appoint Andy Kripe, Mickey Archambault, and Warren James as the Stormwater IGA Committee. We have a motion and a second on that one already.
Commissioner Lesson?
Are we ready for discussion on that?
You can have a discussion if you wish. We'll go once around the circle. Go ahead.
I think it is unique that we have 2 citizens and 1 commissioner when we had a policy that when we had a commissioner negotiating, we would always have a second commissioner. And this goes back to the days of our soon-to-be new commissioner, David Seaman, who felt that there needed to always be 4 ears and eyes sitting at the table. And so we are really, and that has been the practice with you and your president, Mr. James, and with you, Ms. Koto. So this is quite a deviation, and I take exception when I hear, oh, this is all very confidential, where we have 2 citizens who will be negotiating on behalf of a government unit. I think this sets a very bad precedent. So,
Thank you.
Just my thought.
Cynthia?
I reiterate my comments that I don't believe our policy manual has a provision for this, and committee meetings formed by the board president should be open, subject to OMA, in accordance with our board policy manual under 4.30. And I would like our attorney to give us an opinion on that specifically.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Yeah.
Okay. That's a roll call vote.
Oh,
Oh,
Just-
okay, go ahead.
There were 2 IGAs successfully negotiated, myself and Nikki on behalf of the Park District, Andy Kripe and Chris Rintz on behalf of the village. The notion of bringing Rob Apatow, who is the appointed member for the village, along with Chris Rintz, and having Andy Kripe as the 5th wheel, if you will, who would be ostensibly representing on behalf of the Park District. As you said previously, Andy Kripe is a very good way of bringing people to consensus. And I think it might be beneficial to have Andy's involvement, because he's very familiar, having been a village trustee, having him in the room with Chris and Rob, and being able to act in a mediating role with Mickey and myself to arrive at what is ultimately in the best interest. And don't get me wrong, this is not a committee, this is a negotiation regarding what is the best solution and who is going to pay for what elements of this solution to effectuate a solution to the problem.
Any other comments? Any other discussion? Okay, Denise, this is a roll call vote for the original 3-member committee.
There's one other consideration. This presumes that this will be completed before Commissioner James rolls off.
And if not, I'm out.
Then we'll replace him with someone else.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp?
No.
Commissioner Root?
No.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Koto?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Okay, moving on to items 6.2 and 6.4, which I think are our last remaining items. (6.2) Elder Lane and Centennial Park Project Plan Update.
Christina, thank you. Currently, the Park District has been engaged and will continue to be engaged with the special use permit process for Centennial Park, 225 Sheridan Road. Currently, we are preparing the presentation. We plan on distributing that presentation to the Plan Commission, or in this case, to Community Development Liaison or staff for the presentation next week, Wednesday. We're excited to be able to present to the Planning Commission. We're taking our time and due diligence to make sure that we're explaining the process, the history, the plan, special use standards, as well as the exemptions that are requested as part of that presentation. Continuing on the second item, of course, Elder. We're finishing up our response back to the village in regards to that. In regards to the last round of follow-up comments, we are looking forward to engaging with the village process next month, whether it be the Plan Commission or the Zoning Board of Appeals. We are in a position to have the first run through the Plan Commission as an opportunity to talk through the plan in greater detail, have more perspective on it, and then be able to walk that plan through the Plan Commission accordingly, and then follow suit with the recommending bodies of design and review, and of course council accordingly. Depending on what transpires with the ID negotiations, if there is a different path that is selected or identified, staff will receive direction upon that approval at that time of continuing to move forward with the plan as it's been adopted by the Park Board. Can I answer any questions at this time in regards to the current status of the lakefront projects?
I'm good.
Thank you.
Okay. Did you want to add your
Sure.
visuals? Because you're attached with COSTA at this item.
There have been some comments made regarding the lack of a bigger picture vision for Elder and Centennial combined. We held 3 open houses in 2023 in advance of finalizing our plans. This is the one example. For those folks at home, this was the plan for the full vision that was approved in May of 2023. As you recall, the village subsequently passed 4 ordinances in July that year that caused us to make further changes to the plan. So we adopted in October a concept plan that was modified to comport with the new village ordinances. And in this plan, you can see that the pier from Elder was still there, because at that time, the village had told us that they were not in agreement to remove the pier. They subsequently advised us that they changed their mind and they were okay with the removal of the pier, so that got to where we are today with the Elder plan, having the north groin keep the steel at the south end, line it with stone, dissipate wave energy, and remove the pier. As inelegant as some people may say this is, it complies with the village ordinance of optimizing views over beach retention. And I'd also note that at present, Elder is divided into 3 parts, with 2 steel groins and a pier. By removing the steel groin in the north and removing the pier, Elder will become a unified beach. And there will be equal portions between Elder to the north, Elder south, and the proposed pier at Centennial. And we still keep the dog beach. So there's a big picture vision.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Warren or Costa? Okay, moving on to item 6.4. Interim plan to open Elder Beach for 2025 season. Cynthia.
Yes, I'm glad that we're discussing this in response to the caucus survey, where the community overwhelmingly indicated a desire to have Elder open while longer-term plans are being worked. And so I wanted to, see where we stood on this. I believe that the debris can be cleaned up as it was in 2023. I believe that we can improve our position for the community on Elder in terms of making the beach and making the park look more presentable in terms of the bluff, and opening the beach house so that people can use the bathrooms and to make it more comfortable. So we have an existing special use permit for this park. It includes the beach house, it includes the beach. We are currently not delivering that to our community, and I think we should be finding a way to do that in 2025. So, I would like to make a motion to direct staff to open Elder Beach in line with current special use permit, including the removal of the debris, opening the beach house, restoring some landscape for the enjoyment of residents in 2025.
So, there's a motion on the table. There's some information I want to verify.
For a second.
You can have a second, and then we can just have it in discussion. I'm assuming you're going to second.
I am, and again, this falls in line with the objective of community focus and being responsive to our customer base.
So the first,
So motion and a second?
there's a motion and a second, now there's discussion. So the first 2 people I'd like to call on are Shannon and Costa, who investigated this special use permit from 2001.
So we had reached out, we looked at the special use permit, that was back from 2001, that was for the updates to Elder Lane at that time. And in conversation with the village, that special use permit was only for those updates at that time. There's basically a time frame of when that those particular updates were to be done, that special use permit and that ordinance for that special use permit were acted with the village. So anything that we would need to do now as far as removing debris, bringing in a barge, bringing in excavators, anything like that, would either require an amendment to a special use permit or a new special use permit for those specifics.
Thank you. Any questions for Shannon based on her conversations with the village on the validity of a 2001 special use permit?
As I understand, the 2002 special use permit dealt with the construction of a beach house, playground, etc. To me, this is more of repair and maintenance, particularly when we have a safety issue that's been identified by Commissioner James on at least 2 meetings. And we seem to have sand that is readily available at Lloyd that we have to dredge every year. So what I am wondering is why there can't be a discussion with village staff on how we could have a interim repair and maintenance, not special use. This is simply because we are going through all of the actual special use permit for Elder right now. But what we're trying to do is to accommodate our public that has had this beach shut for 4 years. And I can't believe there's not a way that we can work an interim, temporary solution for this upcoming season, because in all candor, we know that we're not going to be ready this summer season with any sort. We may finally have a village permit, but we'll be going on to the IDNR and the Corps.
Which we would have to do for that work in order for excavation and that sort of thing of the items that are in the water, that debris and that sort of thing.
How did we remove these items in 2023? This is what puzzles me, and how is it that other park districts, this is my question, how have other park districts been able, and I look at Wilmette, to get an emergency permit with the Corps to get things done on a quick turnaround? I just can't believe this can't be accomplished. Thank you.
Can I answer?
Go ahead.
I'm all in favor of getting all the debris out of the water as soon as possible. So I think we should go to the village and to the IDNR and the Army Corps and ask them, what would it take? And then we have to obviously engage a contractor. We need a dredging permit. We need to get a barge out there and an excavator that has the capacity of reaching to the limits of the swim area and scouring it to make sure that we've recovered all of the steel and broken concrete that we know about and that which we don't. And if we're going to spend the money and get the permit, we desperately need to do the same thing at Centennial, because there's far more concrete that we've identified at Centennial. So we should roll on both of these fronts. And while we're at it, I'd like to suggest we should remove the pier, or a good section of the pier, so that it can be, the rest of it can be done not by barge, but from the but from the shore. So I'd like to
repair the pier.
Well, I'd rather spend money removing it if that's what we've all decided is the right thing to do. At least that whole portion of it, because the village acknowledged on Tuesday night that while they've inspected the most of the pipe, they have not inspected the submerged portions of the pipe, and that's what has been deteriorating and showing up on the beach and in the submerged portions, sections of this corrugated metal that are broken off. So if we do get a thorough inspection and we can account for all the missing pieces of steel and concrete, great. But we should be working towards that. We should be seeking an IGA with the village to expedite the permit issuance. I would expect full cooperation from the village.
I will say one thing, that these ordinances tie our hands with regard to every direction we could go in. And that's really unfortunate. They tie our hands with regard to maintenance. We cannot even remove invasive buckthorn. They tie our hands because a village permit is required before we can get a dredging permit with the IDNR. A village permit is the prerequisite for every single one of these things. And we're in the permitting process with the village for both Elder and Centennial. That is the swiftest possible path. It's unfortunate. I don't think anyone ever wanted to have a delay like this, but if those permits had not been pulled, we would have been able to use Elder and Centennial in the summer of 2024. Cynthia.
Question for Executive Director Nizal. Has the village given us something in writing that these things are not possible? It just seems very unusual that maintenance could not be done on a property, an owner property.
So we didn't go into too many details on specifics because we weren't given direction to do so, but in general conversation over the phone with community development office.
The permit process is outlined by the village, says go to the village first, get their consent, then go to the Army Corps and the IDNR, get their permits. If their permits require substantial changes from what was originally approved from the village, you got to start the process all over again. So it's very cumbersome. I don't think the village has the requisite skills to evaluate these things. They have to go hire Baird to do the coastal engineering. But in this instance of removing hazards, getting a dredging permit, I would expect their full support. I don't think it's that hard.
How are we doing this for Lloyd then?
We have a dredging permit.
We have a 5-year permit, or a multi-year permit, 10-year
10-year
permit.
IDNR permit, 3-year Army Corps permit that has been put in place. We've asked for a addendum to that to change the permit slightly to be able to place sand on the south side of the groin from where it exists today to be able to replenish that part of the public beach. There's about 40 feet of it on the south side where the tributary washes out the footsteps there, so we want to take action there as well.
Yeah, we can't just move sand from one beach to another without permission.
No, I understand that.
Cap the littoral system.
Yeah.
Correct.
So I just also want to respond to President Koto's comment about the permit. That permit was also a joint permit with a private resident.
And there's nothing wrong with
So
that.
that was unprecedented.
There was nothing wrong with that. That was at the request of the IDNR. That-
Okay. We've discussed this.
Yeah.
There is a
Well,
motion.
I need you to clarify the
But
record.
you've had your turn.
But when there is an erroneous statement by another commissioner that
You mean
a joint
Commissioner
permit,
Raps.
no, I meant you, Commissioner Jones.
No, we've
accurate.
each had our turn, okay?
It's
We've
not
gone
accurate.
once around, we've each had our turn. There's a motion on the floor.
It's not accurate.
There's a motion on the floor, and that would be the direction that the staff would need. So we're gonna vote on whether or not we think it's a good use of staff time to pursue this from a 2001 special use permit.
I make an amendment. I would amend the request to include the cleanup of Elder, the cleanup of Centennial, and the removal of the pier. That is a body of work that needs to be done, and it would further our objectives and allow for the reopening of Elder.
I don't believe we have a special use permit for Centennial.
We can, if you remember what the village said to us, there are 2 routes you can go to secure a permit. You can go through the special use permit process, which involves a trip to the ZBA, the Plan Commission, and the Design Review Board, and then the village, or you can enter into a direct IGA discussion. That was how New Trier was facilitated. That's how D36 was facilitated. The village respects that we are a separate unit of government. We can enter into an IGA and bypass those other permitting processes. That's what I'm suggesting.
So you're suggesting we add this to the scope of the IGA, or make this the scope?
Make this the scope of the, make this a separate scope, because it's a subpart of the greater work, and we don't want to wait for the entire process. We want to get this dredging work completed.
President Koto?
Yes.
May I have Costa say something?
Yeah.
Sure. Oh, geez, I didn't see your name.
Oh, you're fine. I just wanted to lend a point of clarification because I was the one who contacted the village community development department as it relates specifically to the item of special use. But I just want to note that the findings of what the special use permit are, and as they've been stated, the ability to adopt or to change those, as noted in the section 3 and section 4 of the special unit ordinance itself that has been approved, limits that to a timeline of when the effective date of the ordinance can be completed and the work that is associated with that. I would like to also note that it was brought to my attention by village staff that the village did adopt an effective change past July 18th of 2023 to the special use process. This was motion or ordinance MC-09-2023 that allowed for definitions of change, minor or major changes to the special use permit seeking approvals for that process. Based on what it is and what we're looking to do here, and based on the lakefront construction permit process that has been put in place since that time, I think the course of action, if directed by the board, would be to engage with village staff to understand what the process is to then facilitate the needs as requested by the board. To do that, it would be engagement with James Bernal, Director of Engineering, along with Rob Ahan, Shannon, and myself can have a conversation with them to understand the steps involved. Once we understand those steps, then we can further the investigation and talk to the Corps and the IDNR to understand what's laid out in regards to what's considered an emergency. Our emergency is of being closed. In the eyes of the Corps and the IDNR, they might not see that in the same light because there's nothing threatened besides the closure of the site, which does not harm individuals per se. It's not a desirable outcome of the beach being closed, but for them to take that on in an emergency capacity, as we've talked before, when Lloyd was literally crumbling into the lake, they did not see the need to issue us an emergency permit at that time. So I feel hard pressed that they would say that this would be warranting an emergency. So I think it would be most prudent for us to get and understand the resolution through the village and the plan of attack, if you will, and then look to the other agencies to decide how to proceed if this is a course direction that the board would like to direct staff to engage in.
How much time will that take?
I would say
It's another permitting stream, basically.
And it depends on the village's response
Correct.
as well.
I would say probably March, we can probably come back to the board at that time, but that's an assumption.
I don't know, I'd love to have the question answered and settled once and for all. I'd love to have it either added to the scope as a separate scope for the stormwater IGA for Elder, or I'd love to have it put to bed and have understand that we have to go through the whole permitting process.
Let's take action and direct staff to reach out to the village and ask them, how fast can we get this done? Can you help us get this work accomplished? What permits are necessary? Let's get it done.
As we mentioned before, the cost to mobilize equipment of this nature and the cost to serve barges on a
Yes.
daily fee rate is rather
Substantial.
It's substantial. So just realize that we might be looking at a several $100,000 expenditure. Now, I'm not saying that that should sour the taste or sway the board otherwise to do this, but that is going to be something that needs to be thought about because you're going to be remobilizing potentially again to the same efforts of
To do the full
potentially
project.
$250,000 as it's been identified in our cost estimates for the projects.
That is why we want to expand the scope as much as possible to make this a worthwhile expenditure. Mobilization and getting the right equipment on site. You're gonna have barges that are gonna be loaded up with the debris and taken away. So yeah, let's explain it, let's explore it, let's see what we can get done.
I would argue, and no disrespect, Warren, I think removing the pier at this time or portions of the pier would not necessarily be in the best interest, knowing where the village has, where they're at to date with their plan. But that's just staff's perspective at this time. Staff will deliberate to the board.
Even
can
if
always
it
reduce the
means
scope.
just removing the end, have the conversation, right? What's at the end, either you need to spend money to repair it or remove it. I'm in favor of removing.
Sure,
You can always reduce the scope.
of course.
Yeah, so,
Ask for as much as you can.
Right.
all right. The
Optimize
motion
use
that's
of
on the
equipment.
table, Denise, read it back.
That is the Commissioner James' amendment to request to include cleaning up Elder, Centennial, and removal of the pier. That is the motion by Commissioner James that does not have a second at this point.
Okay, second.
We would like a roll call vote on that.
Yeah.
Commissioner Rapp,
Is this a new amendment?
this is an amendment to your original motion.
You wanna read it back again?
Your motion?
Yeah. I
So we'll
can,
be voting on the amendment?
yeah, we'll go ahead and
Voting on the amendment.
And can you speak into
But the amendment is to expand the scope to remove the debris at Elder, remove the debris at Centennial, and remove as much of the pier as possible at Elder, so that we can optimize the mobilization of the necessary equipment, marine-based.
Okay, so removal of as much as the pier as possible.
Yep.
Ready for a vote? Commissioner Rapp?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson has left the meeting, and Commissioner Koto?
Yes.
That motion passes.
That's the amendment.
Oh, I mean, the
That's the
amendment, sorry,
amendment.
passes. Now you want to vote on
Read
original motion.
the original motion,
Commissioner Root?
please.
Commissioner Root?
Yes,
Read the
Oh.
but I think you need to read it, don't you?
Can you read it from, I only got the first half.
Okay, my
that you
motion
read.
was to direct staff to open Elder Beach in line with current SUP, including removal of debris, open the beach house, landscaping, restoration, and maintenance for the enjoyment of residents in 2025, with Commissioner James's amendment to clean up the debris also at Centennial and remove as much of the pier at Elder as possible at the same time.
That's moved and seconded. That's a roll call vote.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp?
Yes.
Commissioner Koto?
Yes.
That motion passes.
It's very likely that we're gonna get a response from the village that may
Doesn't matter, let's go.
articulate this.
Having dialogue is a
We'll,
positive
we'll come
thing.
back to the board as soon as we're able with more information.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we've addressed all of our items, so I'm willing to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned at 9:11.
President Koto, for a surprisingly efficient meeting.
Considering all the reactions we got,
I was out there.
We're singing the same thing.
I feel like 9:10, I still got most of the night.